Welcome to Needle's Eye Ministries. I'm your host, James Lee, and I'm sitting here with Gordon Pryor. It's nice to meet you.
Good to be with you, James.
Now, we've met many times before. Well, the reason that we're sitting here talking today and doing this video is not because you're just so fun to talk to, but we want to make sure that the Needle's Eye participants and volunteers and attendees and small group participants get a better understanding of who you are and your significant role here at Needle's Eye, right? So just kind of want to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
I want to talk with you first just about your backstory, maybe your testimony kind of leading up to how Second Half got started. So can we start like a few steps back from Second Half and think like where was Gordon Pryor before Second Half was founded?
That probably could go back a long way. I was, I first really became aware of who Jesus Christ was in the 70s when we joined St. Giles Church. And from the 70s through 2000, up until 2000, I functioned as a member of the session and Sunday school and a whole bunch of things at St. Giles. And I think had a relationship with Jesus Christ, but it was not. I probably didn't feel it as necessary in the beginning years as I became to realize as I got older how important a personal relationship to Jesus was. So when I got ready to retire, which was 2002, I knew it was time. I'd practiced about 37 years, and I was ready to do that. I actually was I was volunteering at a free clinic at that time, and I still am, but as far as the private practice is concerned. But about 6 months before I retired, I became aware for the first time that I was going to have about 40 or 50 extra hours a week. I'm a structured person, and I like to have a schedule. I like to be busy, and that really bothered me. A lot of anxiety. And I couldn't get rid of this thought. I'm not sure who was the most anxious, my wife or me. She probably thought I would be really filling a role that wouldn't necessarily be productive. But Buddy Childers came in one day, an executive producer, executive director of Needle's Eye Ministry, and he as a patient, and he asked me how I was doing, and I said, Buddy, I'm having a hard time. I'm going to retire in 6 months, and I don't know what I'm going to do with my time. And he said, let's get together and pray about it. And I thought that was a good idea, and we did that a few times, and we actually ended up meeting a couple of other guys that felt the same way. And we were fortunate there, we were blessed. So on June the 19th, 2002, we got together here at Needle's Eye Ministry and with 4 people and started to share how we felt about not having an active schedule, extra time. We all kind of agreed that we really wanted to spend our time in God's will. We wanted to find out what His purpose was for our life and really pursue that so that our latter years would be in that direction. And that's what got Second Half started.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's more to it, right? Because I can't imagine right now having 40 to 50 extra hours of life. And if there was, I'd probably be my head would be spinning on what to do with that time. We always say we need more time. We need more time.
Yeah.
Now, let's think back a little bit too, because I want to kind of pull from you your story coming up towards retirement, and this was kind of around 9/11, 2001. So you're getting ready to retire. Like, what was going on in your life then that was keeping you busy?
Well, as I said, I did a lot of different things. I've always been active in the community. I've worked with youth soccer and substance abuse, kids on drugs. So I've always been active besides the office. Had a very busy dental practice, and I spent a lot of time with that. And I went on mission trips. So this was going to be a huge area. But the thing that impressed me into thinking was that I really wanted to follow God's will. I wanted to find out what his plan was for me. And I have the time to do it. I do like to do other things in the community, but I wanted to be in his will. And that was a strong influence on me, on my thinking, as to what I was going to do. And when we got together with the other three people, they felt the same way. They wanted to be in God's will, and we started to share. Second half is an organization for senior men. The biggest part of that ministry is the sharing and coming together for each other. We'll talk more specifically about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to sharing, like, did you work on yourself for years trying to grow into a more vulnerable person? Or was this even a newer experience
It
for you
just
as well?
evolved. It just evolved. How you feel? How you feeling today, guys? And they were saying, well, I've got an issue. I'm having a hard time with the extra time I've got communicating effectively with my wife. I don't know my grandchildren as well as maybe I should. So there were issues that we all had, and men our age all have. And so we started to, we decided we would share our needs and concerns, and we would pray about that for each other on a regular daily basis. And that, knowing that someone is praying for you to improve in an area that you need to improve in, is huge. So that became a very essential and big part of our ministry, is praying for each other, as it is still today. And so we shared, we prayed, and then we thought, it might not be a bad idea if we got a book, a Christian book, and we looked at a few and decided that maybe by sharing a book and having discussions, it might open up thoughts we hadn't had, and develop relationships within each other. And so we picked a book called Halftime, Bob Buford's. And Bob Buford, as you probably know, was a very successful television station owner, was leading in his industry, a leader in his industry. He lost his son when he was in his early 20s from an accident, a swimming accident in a river somewhere. And this really changed his life. He said in the book that he'd been thinking that he really wasn't feeling fulfilled, even though he was so successful in his job. But when he lost his son, he really took a step back and decided he needed to make some changes in his life. And that was good for us to hear that this man who was successful needed more than just being successful on man's level, but he needed to seek something else, and that something else was Jesus Christ. So that book and the time we discussed together was tremendous. So we had fellowship, we prayed for each other, and we had the book. And so, of course, people realized that, what are you doing? What are you doing? What do you guys do there in this second? Well, we didn't call it second half. They were just meeting four guys.
Just meeting four guys.
Four guys.
4 guys in a book.
5 guys. So we invited people to join us. And they did, because we found that men our age have needs. So we decided, well, if we're going to meet together, we probably should have some kind of a mission statement. Let's put it in writing what it is, who we are, and what we want. So our mission statement was developed, and our mission statement is to seek a closer relationship with Jesus Christ, and to try and follow and understand and follow His plan for the rest of our lives, and also to seek a deeper relationship with each other through Christian fellowship.
Yeah.
And that says it all. That's who we are and what we try to do. And that mission statement is what we have today. And we started in 2002 with 4 people, and we've had over 300 that have gone through and been involved.
When you say 300 have come through and involved, some of them have probably passed away, I would imagine.
Some have died, some have moved, some have become incapacitated and couldn't come. Some didn't get it. It wasn't for them. You can't please all people, and people see things differently.
Sure.
But we've got an active group now of between 150 and 200 men that meet twice a month for an hour and a half in 4 different locations. 3 here in Richmond, one at St. Giles Presbyterian Church, one at West End Assembly. Then we have Covenant Woods, where I live at in Hanover. And then the elite group are down at the Urbana Yacht Club.
The elite group.
Yeah, I say that tongue-in-cheek. That they're a great bunch of guys, but they a lot of those men work in Richmond, but go there for the weekend. So they meet, I think it's 6:30 on Monday morning. Then they have a meeting, and then they come to work. And that's a great group.
They
So.
go up and go off in their yachts. So look, I have a comment, and I want to see if this relates to you in the second half. My friend says, I have a good friend who says this: my problems are God-sized problems that you can't fix, but you can walk alongside me in them. As I go through the journey of going through problems I'm having,
Yeah.
pains that I'm experiencing,
Yeah.
suffering that I'm going through, maybe you can't fix it as my friend, but as a brother and a friend, you
Right.
can walk alongside me
Yeah.
in them. Does that relate to you at
That's
all?
significant. That's very significant. We realize that we in our own earthly flesh can't fix all these problems, but we can support the person that has a problem by praying for that person, by being available for that person to talk to us. You know, sometimes the best counseling is listening. And to know that someone cares and prays for you, and maybe has touched by God and has insight that might be helpful to you. So there's a lot of ways God can use that other person, and I think He does. I think He does. He puts us in situations. I can think of men in second half that have come in that have had really huge problems, and they've found somebody that they've really related to, either with a similar problem or a caring heart, or God ordained them to do something. And it's been tremendously meaningful. So yes, that's significant.
Yeah. What are some of the issues that older men are facing that are pretty commonplace in second half?
Well, you know, we change physically, mentally, and hopefully spiritually in the right direction. But physically, we just can't. You know, if we've been avid golfers or tennis players, sometimes we'll pick up something that we can't continue to do that, and that's a loss. If you've been a big sports player all your life, you can't do that. Maybe you have to go on a diet. Maybe you become a diabetic. Maybe you break something. You're incapacitated. I think probably if I had to say what would be the most devastating problem would be if your spouse had a problem such as a memory loss. And we have so many men that wives are in dementia, and some of the men are, but we find in our group it's probably more the wives that have a memory problem, and they are now become caregivers. Their whole life changes. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus at this point, you could be really in a bad situation. God can sustain you and give you what you need in a situation like this. He can give you the support and the knowledge that He's there, and He's going to take care of it, one way or another.
Yeah.
So that's one of the bigger problems, I think, we men are self-sufficient. We can take care of it. We're fixers, and
We try to be.
Yeah, well, we try. We think we are. Yeah,
We think we
My wife used to say to me, "I want to share something, but I just want you to listen. Don't try to fix me." I have to really, because I'm a fixer, so I would, she usually said that before she said something significant, so I would shut up or not try to fix her. But these are issues that we men can't fix, and then we get frustrated. I mean, one of the common prayers for some of the men in our group is, "Give me patience, Lord, give me patience with my wife who's in dementia, who's having a problem. Give me patience that I treat her the way that Jesus would treat her, in a loving way." And you can see the frustration. You try to help someone and they're not able to, and you get frustrated, and then you get mad at yourself, and so those are the only place to go there, in my opinion, is to the Lord. He will sustain you.
It's tough because not all of us have this sort of, let's say, inherent skill for caregiving and what that looks like.
Right.
So the patience thing seems to be no surprise that they would pray for that the most.
Yeah.
You know, but to imagine going, you know, being with your partner for years and years, and then to see them go through something like dementia, I just can't imagine like how,
That's right.
you know, how hard that pierces the heart.
Yeah. Well, we tend to live in a make-believe world in the sense that everything's going to stay the same. You know, I'm going to work and be successful. I'm going to retire and really going to be successful because I'm going to play golf. I'm going to do all these fun things. Then bingo, something changes. Mm-hmm. And all men, I believe, will go through something that's going to change. And they're going to have to adapt to that. So that's why it's important to develop a relationship with Jesus Christ before you get to the need. Well, we all have a need. At any age, we have a need.
Sure.
But before you have a big need like this, if you have that support. My wife died, as you know, 14 months ago. We had been married 62 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We had a really good relationship, a good marriage, 3 kids, 6 grandchildren. Everything was fine. She was diagnosed with lung cancer. She'd smoked when she was young, hadn't smoked for 36 years, I think, but she was diagnosed with lung cancer. Whether that smoking had an influence, I don't know. But she lived a year. And that was a huge change in our lives. She was a strong, strong believer. Mm-hmm. And had faith, and really, she was so uncomfortable. You know, many times said, "I want to go to be with Jesus." I'm just too uncomfortable. I've had a good life, and I really felt the same way for her. And so, when she died, this year could have been very difficult had I not had a relationship with Jesus. It would have been a really tough year. But I can honestly say that I have a greater love for Jesus now, knowing that Vera is right there with him, and he's right there with her. He's taking care of her. So, and that's not something that I've thought. It's right from here. Yeah. My attitude has changed markedly about who he is since Vera died, because I really have to trust in it. Before, I would sometimes have questions about, is there really Jesus? But I have no doubt now. And it's been really reassuring and great. It really has. And nice thing is I'm going to be going there sometime too. So, it'll be, Rick Warren in The Purpose-Driven Life says, the life here on earth is preparation for the life eternal. Mm-hmm. We're going to be here for just a few years compared to how many years we're going to be in eternity. And that's substantiated in the Bible in many different places. Mm-hmm. So I believe that. Yeah. So I can fully rejoice I'm here, even without her, and do what God wants me to do while I'm here. And then one day I'll be with her, and, it'll be okay. It'll be good.
That's right. Yeah. You guys had 62 years together. 62 years of being married, having children, seeing their grandchildren, coming to this place where you start and find second half with 3 other men and Buddy. And you have the several years where you've been able to see second half grow and see men who have come through and gone. You have there's so many memories in between that, and I almost wanted to ask you what's your favorite Jesus story, but it sounds like it's the one that involves your wife. And
there's a lot. There's a lot of good Jesus stories. Mm-hmm. As far as a personal story is, the way he has certainly touched my life would be the most profound for me. I think looking at the Bible, there's so many stories in the Bible. The prodigal son has always been a story that I have, parable that I have looked at and missed a lot about it. I was focused on the son that was the delinquent, but the other son really wasn't doing the right thing either. He looked like he was, but he was doing all the right things for all the wrong reasons. And I think I did a lot of that. I think I did a lot of that over the years. And you do things to impress people for whatever reason, so that's a significant story for me, the prodigal son. But the reality of life is the relationship that I have with my wife and Jesus, and our kids. I mean, our kids have been great. They're believers, and so they've been tremendous since Vera died, and we've had unity and support with each other, and that's been good. And the grandkids are. So you didn't ask me this, but I think relationships is probably one of the most important things. Relationship with Jesus, relationships with each other, relationships with family. Two of my grandchildren live out of town, but the telephone works so I can talk to them, and I do that on a regular basis. And the three in town, I usually do. Matter of fact, my second oldest grandson is 29 today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. How about that? Yeah. And so I have regular lunches with him and time with him and his older son. I did the same. He's got his own business that I don't. He doesn't have as much time. But my other grandson, my son's son, he's a soccer player, and of course I grew up in England playing soccer, so I watch him play
Me
soccer.
too.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yes.
I can still smell the dirt on the cleats.
Right. So I think the relationships are important, and this certainly is Vera's death has brought us even closer together. So. Yeah.
Well, a lot of what you just talked about are probably things that you talk about with the other men in second half, I would imagine, when it comes to sharing.
Yeah. Men that come to second half come in and they sit and listen, and they have to get comfortable that they can share things.
Yeah. Tell me more about that, because not everyone's going to always just be an open book. Right?
Yeah. No, some people aren't, but boy, we've seen such tremendous changes in people that have been addicted to things that you wouldn't think they would be addicted to, and the big thing is not that they're addicted to it; they're open enough to share. Second half is 100 and some men. Okay, we have 4 locations, so like St. John's has 60. When we meet for the first 20 minutes or so. We open the prayer. We usually do a praise song. Someone shares maybe what God is doing in their life today. But then we break into 4 small groups. And those small groups are the same groups, the men, every time. Yeah. So you get to know these men, and you get comfortable with them because you're praying for them. They're praying for you. They're listening to you. And you get comfortable. You can have things in your life that are going on that really disturb you, and you can focus on this negative thought all the time. Yeah. And you need to get rid of it if you can't handle it. You need to give it over to the Lord. And so when men hear this, they tend to open up themselves. And we've got 26, I think, small group leaders, and we meet on a regular basis to help ourselves grow and be better leaders. So we try to, the word is not teach, it's facilitate. When we get these small groups, an average of about 10 or 12 probably, and people in a group. And the facilitator will lead a discussion. We're doing right now, What on Earth Are We Here For? And that's Rick Warren's new Purpose-Driven Life extension. He's got a few extra things with it, and I think he's a great teacher. And so we see a video. We see a video of that, and then we break into our small groups for discussion. But remembering, and we could learn so much from this video, and I think we do, and the discussion that we have with that, with a study book with it. But the biggest part of the second half group is the fellowship. Yeah. It's a support, and we've done even a couple of surveys so we could say, this is the way it really worked out. What's your main reason for coming to second half? It's the fellowship and the support we get. We can be real, we can talk, we can relate to other people's problems, and they can relate to ours. And let's face it, when you get to our age, or maybe any age, it's not as easy to find people who will listen and hear and offer to pray. and be there for you. I mean, we've got people that just go out of their way to do things. I could give you a little story
Sure.
on.
I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Well, here we are. We're working. Second half's going good. This is probably we've been 17 years now, so I'm thinking this is 10, 12 years ago. One of the guys in our church in St. Giles was a bicycle rider. You probably know Chris Tompkins. You may not know him. Okay. Well,
Name sounds very familiar.
Chris
but yeah.
Tompkins was very active in Needleside Ministry, an engineer, very athletic. He was about 60, I think, and he rode his bicycle, did a lot of things, but he rode his bicycle at least 100 miles a week. So he was into being physically fit. Got hit by a car, just about home. Got hit by a car, paraplegic. No use from his legs, and he can move his arms, but he can't use his fingers. So here he is. And I didn't know him that well before, but we got to know him, and I said, I'm going to go visit him. So I did, and he had good spirits, but he was obviously in a bad place.
Yeah.
And so I said to the guys one day, I said, Chris, not a member of our group, but he's a member of this church, and why don't we maybe think about, if anyone would like to, join me, and we'll go and we'll take second half to him. And I got a few people that were interested in doing that, so we went and we did. We shared back, and he really opened up. And he has a great memory, and he would be saying, "Hey, how's Vera doing? Or how's your kids doing?" And would pray for us. And we developed a good relationship. One day we said to him, "Chris, we enjoy coming to visit you. Is there anything else we can do for you?" And he said, and he never asks for things. He's just very low key. And he said, my insurance allows me to get so much physical therapy a week, like maybe 2 times. My hands are like this.
Yeah.
And he said, if I could get someone to come and massage my hands and arms, he said it would be a great help. So, long story made short, we have been going over there. When he was in one of the facilities, I can't think of the name, it doesn't matter. He was in a facility, for a nursing home. And we would have 2 men every day, 5 days a week. We'd go over there and stretch, and Wow. And we did that. And there was no problem getting men to step forward. We had a roster. We had one guy that organized the whole thing. We knew when we were going, and we knew who we were going with, and we would physically move his arms and his legs, and so this was just a tremendous ministry for us because we got so much out of it, and I think he did. Obviously, he did too. Okay, so then he also attended St. Paul's Church downtown. His mother was a member there. He couldn't get out of bed really much. So St. Paul's bought him a van.
Yeah.
And they changed that van so he could get into it.
Yeah.
Now, he can't drive because he's not able to do it, but he can get into the van. So we now pick him up, and he comes to all the second half meetings.
That's great.
Yeah. One of our second half guys, it's funny what brings you to a group like this. My next door neighbor, also a dentist in Goochland, I tried to get him to come to second half, but he wasn't really too interested until I talked to him about Chris. Well, Chris, he said, what is this guy you're stretching? He said, can I come with you one time? So I said, yeah, come on down. So he went. So he then became a chief advocate for Chris. Took him about 3 years, but we got Chris into the Virginia home, and can be a lifetime situation. It's hard to get in there. Mostly everybody's in a motorized wheelchair. But Alan, my friend, he just really worked on that and got it. He's now very, very active in second half.
Yeah.
So it can change your life around.
Well, you had mentioned that not only Chris obviously physically received from it, and I'm sure spiritually and emotionally, but you said that you also received, like the guys who were participating in that ministry also got so much from it, and I'm just curious, like what that looked like.
I'd walk in there some nights tired and think, gee, do I really want to be here for an hour? Just watch your Chris. And
Don't blame you.
and I got a headache. Maybe I should take a skip, but I wouldn't do that. I would go, and I'd walk out of there on cloud nine. He ministered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he ministered to us as much as we possibly could minister to him. He now is able to use a computer, and he leads Bible study at the Virginia home. He puts out a publication. I mean, it's amazing.
That's
He
incredible.
never would have had, I don't believe, that kind of a ministry had he not had the accident. Wow. God used that.
Mm-hmm.
He allowed that to happen, and he used it in a mighty way. So that is just a, we've got a, are we okay for another story?
Of course.
Okay. Well, we've got a guy in the second half. This has been, again, probably around 10 years ago. We'll call him Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Ray was a teacher, very quiet guy, very reclusive, didn't really have any people that he really related to well as far as close friends, never married, retired. He retired. I met him in a Sunday school class at St. John's, and he never said anything. But then he spoke one week. It was really worth hearing what he had to say. So every time he spoke, we all kind of listened. Mm-hmm. Well, he developed. We got him in second half. Yeah. I stopped him outside one day, and I said, "You're retired?" He said, "Yeah." I told him about the group, and I said, "I'd love to have you come and visit." He said, "I might do that," and he did. Surprised me, but he did. And he came regularly then. Developed a brain tumor. Decided no treatment. He knew the prognosis was bad, and he decided not to have the treatment. He lived by himself. He had a housekeeper that came in and cooked meals and things. But we decided that maybe we should go over and visit him, and talk to him. Well, we had another guy in second half who lived in New Jersey. We'll call him Al. And Al came down. He had his own business in New Jersey and was very successful. They had a child in Richmond, an adult child, and they came to Richmond. And he was a good, strong Christian. Anyway, he came, and he said the one thing that he never liked to do was to go to a hospital. He just didn't like to have anything to do with sick people.
Sure.
So I understand that. Mm-hmm. So he said, but when Ray came home from the hospital, he said, I just felt I needed to go over. And he said, I really didn't want to go because I don't like to do that. Mm-hmm. But he said he's decided he'd go over. He said, I'll go over and cut his grass. I won't have to be involved with him, but I'll cut his grass. Okay. So I went over there and he did that, but he did get involved with them. And he then became extremely active with the visitation. He probably visited Ray more than anybody did. And since Ray passed on, Al has developed a ministry where he goes around nursing homes and asks permission to speak to the people who usually don't get visitors. So he's got a whole ministry there with nursing homes and people, and here's a guy who didn't like to go in a hospital, be around sick people. It's amazing how God has used that, and he's just a remarkable story.
Yeah.
So a lot of people doing a lot of things.
So let's fast forward now back to present day. It's 2019, second half is where it is. How's it doing today? And are there any needs or requests that second half has that people are able to maybe help out in or something like that? Are there any resources that second half could use? I would love for you to talk about how people could maybe even get involved and who do they need to contact?
People can get involved with second half by calling Needles Eye Ministry, or they can give them my name, and I've got a number, and I get a lot of calls, and we just invite all men who are interested to come. We really are pretty self-sufficient. Our biggest goal would be to attract more people to second half, not because we need more numbers. It's at all. It's the opportunity we could afford somebody to have a personal relationship with Jesus. We just feel it's so important that if we don't have that relationship now at this time of life, we're not going to be here that much longer. And so if we miss it now, we may miss it totally. And so that's the passion we've got, is to attract more men and give men an opportunity to realize there is support out there for them, there's love out there, and there's a God who loves us all a lot and has a purpose for our lives. So that would be our goal for expanding, and that would be the reason, the only reason.
Sure.
Okay.
And so, even though you spoke about this in detail, maybe if you could summarize, like, what if someone is brand new to Second Half, maybe thinking about visiting one of the groups, how could they set their expectations before they come in?
Knowing that it's a Christian Christian group of older men, and it's 65 or plus, I would think, that are going through similar things in life that they may be going through, or that they may be going to go through. Support and an environment of people like themselves that finished working and are at our age. Older men need older men to talk to, because we have issues that younger men don't have. We have issues that wives don't necessarily have. They have issues that we don't. So this is an environment that would be a helpful type of environment for someone who would like to have good fellowship. And I think if you've been busy and worked all your life and you abruptly don't, that fellowship and that relationship is important.
Yeah.
It just is, because you've sort of been severed from it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that answer that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me ask you one final question when it comes to Second Half. Is there anything else that you would like to add that you've been thinking about saying at this point?
I think the big thing is I have to think that the support for men who have a need for it.
Right.
I think most men our age have a need for some kind of support, and most of us don't know where to get it. And this is a loving, really caring group of guys from all walks of life that come together and hear each other and support each other. And that, at my age, you won't appreciate it as much because you're young. But at my age, that's important, especially if you're single. You need to have someone you can trust and understands you and the issues that you have and care about it. And that's the big reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Appreciate your time.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.